Tristan Tate.
How did you manage to get such a big name on your interview, Rory? I mean, I don't understand. You've just started on Rumble. Your channel's relatively small. How did you manage to get such a big name on your podcast? I'm impressed.
I don't know. I mean, it took a lot of convincing, but I mean, we're here now, so we're going to get it going. I've wanted to do this interview for a little while, and I think I've got some good questions today. Some questions that people would like answers to.
You are in a very unique position. And for those of you who don't know at home, the reason he got me on this interview is because I've known him since he was 18, and he's currently at my house. So I thought, why not? And he is actually in a very unique position because he could probably get away with asking me things that most people wouldn't, and most people would be scared to ask. So I don't know what the questions he's going to ask me are, but I'm very interested in what you've got to say.
Do you know what? I think the title of this interview will be called The Life of Tristan Tate, because we're going to go over a few subjects of, your upbringing, where you started and everything else.
Yep.
And then we're going to later move on to the more modern sort of stuff. So,
Okay.
cool.
Ready.
Without further ado, let's go.
Ready when you are.
Okay, so let's start from your childhood and your family life growing up in America, because obviously I didn't know you then. So first off, your mum was originally from Luton, right?
Yeah, so my parents actually met at an Air Force base near Luton called Chicksands, where American Air Forcemen and soldiers would go out and have a bit of a party. And there were some local English girls around. And my dad, obviously being the big, black, strong, handsome man he was, saw that little pretty white English girl at Chicksands and managed to promote 12 years of marriage and 3 kids out of her. So well done to him. But yeah, I was born in the United States.
See, that's very interesting, because Chicksands is actually very local to Luton anyway.
Yeah.
I think it's about a 15-minute drive away.
Absolutely.
So Eileen met Emery at Chicksands, and from there, she obviously fell head over heels in love with Emery.
Yeah,
and then I'm guessing Emery moved Eileen to the States, is that right?
Absolutely. I was born in Washington, D.C., Walter Reed Medical Center. I believe that's the same hospital that presidents go to. So I was born in the Walter Reed Medical Center, but I don't remember any of Washington, D.C.
Okay, so obviously you were very young at the time. So where was your first school? So I thought you were from Illinois.
No. So the reason me and Andrew say Chicago is because nobody knows where anything is in the United States. People know New York, California, Miami. So if I'm in Turkey and people say, where in England are you from? I say London. Because
Right.
Luton's close.
Of course.
So I'm not even from Illinois at all. I grew up in a state called Indiana, which is the state next to Illinois. So I lived in a very small town called Goshen. Now I had a grandfather in Chicago. Chicago is a good 5-6 hours drive away from where I am. But if you're trying to make somebody imagine in America where I lived, I just say, Chicago. The Chicago area. Dad grew up near Chicago. It's just an easier explanation to the foreigners. But yeah, I grew up in Indiana.
Okay, so let's talk a bit more about your upbringing in America. So did you have a nice family home? Did you live in a nice area? Did you go to a nice school?
No, not really. So, I mean, the situation with my father, me and Andrew never really go into it. But essentially, he was a successful man up until I was about 2 years old. So I don't remember ever having any money or anything good.
Right.
So he used to travel around playing chess. He fought with the military for a decade trying to get his old job back, which ultimately failed. He never did get his job back with the military. He never got any back pay. He never got financial compensation or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I always remember being poor, even when I was living in America, because my first memories of going to other people's houses, I'm like, I live in a bedroom with my brother and my sister. We have one room that we all share. That was the kids' room. You've got your own bedroom. Stuff like that was mind-blowing to me at age 4 or 5. I mean,
and your school there? Your school was it a good school?
You know what's funny? I now realize that I'm famous enough that when I start saying the names of schools and stuff, people might contact me from the past. Or
Okay.
What did I say in school? I went to Chandler Elementary School in Goshen, Indiana. That was my first ever school.
See, I knew this. I knew that was Goshen, Indiana. That's right. So let's talk about your sibling relationships growing up. Obviously, I know you're very close to Andrew. You always have been as long as I've known you guys. You then there's Janine as well. So were you guys close growing up?
I feel like sibling rivalry, boys fighting and arguing is a very normal part of growing up. We used to punch each other, that kind of thing.
Of course, yeah.
You've got brothers yourself.
Yeah.
I think our superpower was as we came into adulthood and realized how alone we were on Earth, or in the world, that we transformed that kind of rivalry or any jealousy or anything we had for each other into teamwork.
Into a partnership,
Yeah,
right?
but you don't think that way at 8 or 9 years of age. If you've got an older brother who steals your stuff, you try to punch him. And
Of course.
He punches you back hard.
I think that's a common trait across every sibling, relationship in the world. But let's talk about chess. When did you start playing chess? Because I've seen articles on Andrew winning chess competitions from when he was 5 years old. When did your dad get you boys to start playing chess? And
So what's interesting now is I'm going to start teaching my daughter chess now, and she can't even speak properly. The reason being, I don't remember ever not knowing how chess pieces move. So I don't know how old I was when he taught me, but I never have that memory of sitting down saying, how does this piece move? How does this piece move? My earliest recollections of chess, maybe I was 3.5, my earliest recollections of sitting at the board, I knew how the pieces moved already.
so for as long as you can remember, you've naturally known where all the pieces move.
There's not a single point in my life when I can remember not knowing how to play chess or learning how to play chess.
That's insane.
I remember studying chess, but actually learning the rules of the game, how to set them up, it feels like I've always known it. So he must have taught me before I could speak.
Crazy. So you went to school, Chandler Elementary or whatever the school was called.
Yeah.
And then after this, your mum and dad had a breakup. They broke up. What age were you then?
Jesus, I was about 7.5, 8. And
Yeah.
the reasons for the breakup weren't so much the marriage being on the rocks. I believe the reason for the breakup, as it is most marriages and most breakups, was financial. You have to understand, in America, if you're broke, you can't go to the hospital. There's no health care if you're broke.
It's not like the NHS in England where you can do whatever you like and just go to the hospital, call an ambulance whatever hour of the day you want, and it's free.
Yeah, I know.
So you get charged thousands of pounds for an ambulance in America.
Yeah, no, thousands, tens of thousands sometimes. So I think the main discussion of my parents' divorce was around medical care, because we were in a situation where they'd tried so hard for so long to keep their heads above water, but they were now at the point where the medical insurance for the family was lapsing. So me, my brother, and my sister, if anything happened, there was no going to hospital, because that's the way America is. Or if you do go to hospital, you're now in debt forever. So being British citizens, there was a discussion about them perhaps staying together.
Yeah.
But certainly for now, my mum had to take the kids and go over to England.
See, that's very interesting. So it was the financial pressure on the
was
relationship that
financial.
made your mum make that decision
But
to take you guys away?
I think a lot of divorces and a lot of breakups are
Absolutely.
financial pressure.
I've seen it. I've seen it in a lot of my friends' parents' relationships. I've seen it happen.
If you take married couples where they're both working, they're both trying to juggle jobs, incomes, they have arguments about what to spend the family money on. The guy wants to buy too much beer, the woman wants to buy too many clothes. They fall out all the time. And I just feel like it's not great, but a lot of marriages could be solved by giving them $10 million. Like a lot of the problems in most families could be solved by saying, stay married, here's $10 million.
Yes.
Just chill out and don't work anymore. So it's one of the reasons that me and Andrew always preach about, financial success and making money and all the things that we always talk about, because we understand that as ugly as it is, I guess, that the world revolves around money in such a way. It's not just the world, it's your relationships, your marriages, your family, the dynamic you have with your kids. It all revolves around money in one way or another, because it can make things a lot better, and money can also make things a lot worse. But being broke is harder than being rich.
Which moves me on to my next question. You moved to England when you were very young.
8.
Did that have a big impact on you as a child? Did it make you feel it? And did you miss America when you first moved to England? How was that move for you?
Moving country when you're a kid is very difficult. And England and America are extremely different countries. So I lived in a country with a forest and nature, and I could run outside and play in the woods. And that was very much my childhood and my lifestyle, I guess, as a 7-year-old, riding bikes around. And then I moved into the middle, just north of Bury Park in Luton.
Marsh Farm?
No. The homeless shelter we lived in was on Studley Road, the same road as the fire
I know
station.
Studley Road. Anyone from Luton will know Studley Road, I'm sure.
It's the fire station road. It's now been demolished and it's a bunch of flats now, but there used to be a house there that was owned by the government. It was like a homeless shelter for homeless families. So there I am in the middle of there. The closest park, I guess, is Wardown Park, but if you go down there, you're going to get stabbed or robbed.
Well, these days, absolutely.
These days. I mean, it still wasn't that great 25 years ago.
The ice cream store there is still running.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Still there?
It's still going, the same one.
Who goes to Bury Park nowadays, especially with your kids?
Yeah.
But no, I moved to country, and it was very difficult for me to readjust to the educational system.
Which is what I'm asking you. You found that part tough? Surely, I mean, so what was your first primary school in England? Because you must have went primary school.
I went to Icknield Junior School.
Icknield Juniors?
Icknield Juniors, and I was year 5 when I started. So I did 2 years of Icknield Juniors. And then, ironically, because the house that the government put us in after the homeless shelter wasn't in the Icknield catchment area, I had only just made a bunch of new friends. So I was 10 at this point. I've been in England 2 years. I'd only just made a bunch of new friends. And then suddenly everyone's going to the same high school and I have to go to a different one. So I lost all my friends again 2 years
So you
later.
went to Lee Manor from Icknield.
From Icknield.
And that's not normal in the catchment area.
No, it was me and 4 other people. I still remember their names. Lawrence Dakini, Taisha Davis, and Mark Curtin.
I've heard a few stories about you and Mark.
Mark's a good friend of mine. So those are I still to this day, isn't that weird? that all these years later, I remember the only 4 people from McNeil Junior
And you'll never
School.
forget.
And I haven't said the word Lawrence Takini or Taisha Davis in 14, 15 years. I haven't even heard of them. But yeah, I still remember 4 of us from that school got to go to Lee Manor. So yeah, that sucked.
Did you ever deal with a lot of, you know, so being an American kid with an American accent, did you deal with a lot of, you know, not so much bullies, but did you ever have any conflict for being the American kids, or?
You know, no.
No?
No one cares if you're American. I think that culturally you're different and you know that you're different.
Yeah.
I think nowadays British kids and American kids are a lot more similar than they were back then. You know, before the internet, before TV shows mixed the cultures too much. England was England and America was America. No, I didn't really get any trouble for it. If anything, people thought it was cool that I was American.
Yeah, I did think that.
Yeah, so people wanted to talk to me more. But no, I've never in my life had any cases of bullying or anything like that. And I've always been quite headstrong and stood up for myself.
Listen, you've never been scared of a straightener, I'll tell you that much.
I've never been scared of a straightener.
What I will say is, so you went from Icknield to Lee Manor. Lee Manor, quite renowned for being quite a rough school.
The worst school in Luton, which is one of the worst towns for education.
I mean, its Ofsted reports weren't great.
Yeah, I've heard it's doing much better these days.
Do you know what? I think they've had a revamp of the school. It's been renovated and they've got new teachers in. And
they've revamped the entire council estate.
yeah.
But when I was at the school, it was under a state of what's called special measures. So the government was actively inspecting the school every like 4 to 5 days to stop crime and drugs, and all the teachers were just like,
I remember at the time it was really rough.
Yeah, and they weren't hiring teachers on contracts. They were hiring like specialist teachers who were like ex-police officers and stuff. It was really bad when I went to it. So
crazy. So
shout out to Mr. Snape, turned it around. He's probably dead by now. I don't know. He was the head teacher.
So going on the topic of Lee Manor being quite run down when you went there, and the education wasn't great. How did you and Andrew become so articulate and so knowledgeable?
Well, education is more than what you learn in school. In fact, I believe education is nothing to do with school at all. You know, they're some of the smartest people in the world. I've sat in pubs with people who have knowledge and, you know, access to information, or information in their brain that blows people's minds, because they live shitty lives. They sit in the park all day and read books and read newspapers and drink at the pub all night. They're still nowhere and they're still nobodies, but they've self-educated. So when people say to me, Tristan, you're uneducated, technically, I'm uneducated because I don't have a university degree. I know much more about many more things than almost anyone I know who has a university degree.
But where did that discipline come from? Because obviously your dad was in America,
Yeah.
right? Your mum was in England with you guys. She had enough on her hands trying to raise 3 kids by herself in Luton. That in itself's a task. Where did you get the discipline to educate yourself, you know, and make yourself that? Did you read a lot of books?
I did read a lot of books, but it was more out of curiosity than discipline. I could lie and say that when I was a kid, I was focused on learning things and I wanted to know everything. It's not really true. I just, you know, libraries are free. I was bored. There was no source of entertainment in the world.
Yeah.
I remember being at year 5 learning about stupid things like the ancient Greeks. And as an American, I'd never heard of Greece. So I was like, what? Who are the ancient Greeks? I remember, so I'm 9 years old at this point. And I had no idea who they were. So I would go to the library and get books out about them and start reading about them and try to educate myself. So when I sit with most people from any walk of life, there's at least a conversational topic I can hold with them. Yeah. But it wasn't about discipline when I was young. It was about curiosity. And then it was about being poor and being broke and having nothing else to do really than to read books. Yeah. But I mean, you see my room now; it's full of books. People don't know how much I read.
I can't say the same for most people that went to Lee Manor at your age.
I don't know.
You know, a lot of them
are in jail.
Which is why I asked the question. You know, like what made you choose that different path? However, what I will say is, when did you and Andrew decide that you were going to start fighting? You're both renowned fighters. Andrew's a 4-time world champion, as most people know in kickboxing. Yourself, you fought for British and European titles. Mm-hmm. You know, I went to them fights, which you fought brilliantly in.
Yep. It's
what age did you start fighting and why?
You know, Luton, man.
Yeah.
There's nothing to do, and people say, "Why did you choose kickboxing? Why didn't you choose boxing? Why didn't you choose rugby? Why didn't you choose this?" Like, it was simple as I was broke, and there was a kickboxing gym in Luton. The best sporting facility in Luton was a kickboxing gym. Sure, there are some good boxing gyms and there's some good other things, but Andrew discovered this kickboxing gym.
How old was Andrew?
16 maybe?
16?
16. He was doing his last year of high school.
And how did you meet Amir? You know, how did you decide, right, I'm going to go Storm Gym, and, you know, What made you choose?
Well,
Amir?
Andrew had been a few times, and Amir had beaten Andrew up quite badly on his first visits. It was back in the old school, you know. Nowadays, you couldn't do that if some kid turned up at your gym.
Amir's ruthless, bro,
beat him up,
and he'll never
but-
change his ways.
Nah, he'll never change,
Amir's not for soft people to go into his gym. That's just not Amir's style.
No, but it was, yeah, I think we just found a good affinity with him. We had a good relationship with him. We looked up to him, I guess, like an older brother or a father figure, you know, back in the day. And, you know, he's smart, he's powerful. He fought in that war that I found incredibly interesting. He was just one of those characters I just gravitated.
Amir is a character.
I gravitated towards.
He is a massive character.
And he was here 2 weeks ago. So
Guys, if anyone hasn't heard Amir's stories, I can tell you now, you can sit with Amir for an hour and listen to them, and they'll blow you out of the water because, honestly, how is that man not dead? He's unkillable.
Yeah.
You know?
And most people from Eastern Europe watching this will know about the Yugoslavian conflict. So he was one of the Bosnians. So
But he was special forces in Bosnia. He was well known, right?
Indeed, he was. So that was so I gravitated towards Amir, and it became one of those things. What else is there to do?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you finish work. First it was school, but then as I got older, you finish work. Then what do? Go home and do what? Play video games? Jerk off? Like, no.
I know you two boys have got way too much energy.
You go to the kickboxing gym.
Right? Of
You
course.
get beaten up, you get tired, you wake up the next morning, you go to work, you come home from work, what's there to do tonight? Nothing, kickboxing gym. Occasionally go out on a Friday or Saturday night, but what else was there really to do? I feel like, and I'm going to go on a bit of a rant,
No, let's do it.
I feel like the talent pools of athletes, musicians, anything that's moderately impressive they're being diluted and they're vanishing in today's world. So when I was in jail in January, I saw a music video where Jimmy Page, the guitarist from Led Zeppelin, was playing the guitar. And Andrew went, fucking hell, he's good. How did he get so good? I said, I'll tell you how he got so good. Because every boy who was 14 or 15 got a guitar for his birthday.
Yeah.
And millions of them tried to learn how to play. And a few became very, very good. You identified through the use of guitars the most talented guitarists in the world. How many 16-year-old boys get guitar for their birthday nowadays?
None.
What do they get? A PlayStation. What do they get? A Nintendo. So boxing, I feel like, is in its last great era,
Its
if we
last
call
leg.
it that.
Yeah.
Because if you think of fighters, great fighters like Floyd Mayweather, Oscar De La Hoya, who spent years in the amateurs fighting for nothing.
Mike Tyson,
on pure
you know.
sponsorships, hundreds of amateur fights, not making any money, not getting any clout, not getting any glory for 10 years maybe. But for the first time they ever have a fight that's even on television, the talent was so refined by the sheer number of people participating in the sport or participating in learning how to sing or dance or play guitar or box or ice skate that you got super talented people. Now I look around at the Western world and every young man, everyone, 15, 16, out of shape, scrolling on TikTok. That's what they're doing.
Yes.
So what are we going to do? Discover the world's best fucking serial masturbators? Like, where's the talent pools now? You don't have any talent pool to pick any talent from. So I think it's all going downhill. But yeah, I stayed with kickboxing.
Which brings me on to our next question. What age did you and Andrew leave your mum's house and decide that you were going to go and live together?
Well, we lived separately at first because we were very young and that house was two men of our size living in that house.
Two big guys living
We're
in
too
that house.
big for that house.
Yes, right. I can imagine you drove Eileen mad.
Yeah, we drove her insane. So I actually left when I was 15. When I was working at that sandwich shop, you know Peter. I made a friend, a guy from Slovakia named Peter. And he lived in this house where the Eastern Europeans who moved to England, I guess they still do it today, but it was certainly a lot more popular back then, where they would rent one house and everybody would pay the rent share for one room.
So it's like a shared house and you all chipped in to
So
pay the rent to the
I paid
landlord?
£190 a month, which was affordable at my salary.
And that was at Pret?
Yeah, working at Pret making sandwiches.
So your first ever job was Pret?
Yes,
Yeah.
working at the airport making sandwiches.
And what did Andrew do?
Andrew was working in the fishmongers in the market.
I know the fishmongers.
So Andrew's,
Famous K. Ashley fishmongers in Luton Market.
Yeah.
Insane.
So Andrew was working at the fishmongers for many years. They need to put up a plaque or something with his face on it behind the counter. I think they should. I feel like the Pret at Luton Airport should have put up a picture of my face as well.
Do you know what? I was there recently before I came here to stay with you guys. I went to Luton Airport into Departures and I went to Pret and I got a sandwich and I thought, you know.
When you posted that on Twitter, some kid messaged me saying, ha, you really worked there. I still work there now.
Yeah.
And I started DMing him asking like, who did you still know? Because all the people who worked there when I worked there, turns out one of the guys I worked night shift with went on to be the manager. And when that kid first started, that guy was his manager. So this guy had that guy's number.
Wow.
So I got my friend Richard's number off this kid because you posted that on Twitter.
Wow.
So I've reconnected with an old friend I used to make sandwiches with.
So I remember when, I first met you and Andrew. I met Andrew, funny enough, we had a debate on Bebo and,
we were arguing.
We were arguing on Bebo, me and Andrew, on a different social network that a lot of the young men won't know what that is nowadays.
Yeah.
No, me and Andrew met up and we had a fight and, I got my ass handed to me, that's fine. And after that, we actually realized we had a lot in common in terms of our views and our sense of humor. And that's when I met you guys. You lived in a town called Hitchin in an apartment, right?
Indeed, I wasn't doing too badly when you met me. I mean, I wasn't doing great, but how old was I? So I must have been about, what, 20?
But there were times when you guys were struggling, right?
Yeah, no, it got worse after I met you.
Yeah.
Hitchin was okay. Then when I was living in Dunstable, it had gotten really bad. So I've had my ups and downs in life. You know, the path to success isn't one big straight graph on its way up.
Which brings me on to my next question. What was the hardest point for you and Andrew in terms of financially?
The hardest point financially, me and Andrew were partners in a company that made television commercials. So it was essentially a phone sales office where everyone would make lots of calls every day to all sorts of different businesses and try to convince them to buy television advertising. Now, television advertising was big and it was popular and everybody wanted to do it. So when we first started the business, that was when you met me.
I remember you were doing telephone sales, is that right?
I had a bit of money. I had a nice flat that I was renting. We had that Porsche Boxster car that was on finance. It was
the Porsche Boxster S, the red one?
It was on a finance
that's
agreement.
bringing back the years now.
But the thing is, television advertising, we didn't have any foresight. The internet killed television advertising. And we were still trying to sell these television advertising campaigns. We still had a few clients that were still hanging on. But there was a year, the year when I was living in that flat in Dunstable, when I couldn't afford the electricity.
I remember.
That year, I think for the entire 12-month period, me and Andrew made probably less than 7 or 8 grand total.
Didn't it get to a point where you were using the communal electric
Yeah.
from the hallway to run into the flat?
Yeah, so we ran out of electricity. We put an extension wire in the hallway and ran it into the apartment to charge our phones and our computers and stuff.
Yeah.
And you couldn't close the door because the wire was too thick.
I remember these times
So we had
because
knives under the pillow.
Andrew and Tristan used to make this dish and it was called Flavor. And it was the most bland dish you could ever have. And it was made of cheap mince, rice, sweet corn and peas.
And beans,
Kidney beans, all thrown into a pot. So it had everything you needed to train and to survive.
Yeah.
But you used to freeze big pots of that for the week.
But we ate the same thing every day.
Yeah, I remember I used to do it with you.
And those were that was also the year where I'd go to KFC. Everyone knows that story.
That's right. That's where the KFC story
I'm not going to
stems from,
repeat myself. But it's weird when you become a public figure and you're seen on the internet, people don't understand your life story. So people will say, I'll say like, oh, when I was 21, 22, I used to go to KFC and etc. And the people would find a picture of me and Andrew at 20 and 21 in that old Porsche Boxster we had on a finance agreement and be like,
I've still got many pictures.
And they'll be like, oh, look, that's not true because this was 1 year before he said that happened.
Yeah.
There were ups and downs in my life, loads of ups and downs.
Which is why I think it's important for people to know that you weren't always, you didn't always have money. Because people were under this illusion that you always had money. And that annoys me because I've seen you guys and I've seen your struggle and I've seen what you had to do to pay your rent.
Before I was 28, I certainly had more hard times than good times.
Absolutely.
But the last few years have been exceptionally easy. Even this one where they send me to jail, it's fine.
Okay, well, which is funny because I know you and Andrew and I know that you've had the same friends from when I met you guys.
Yeah,
right.
You, Marcel, we got a few good friends.
Surely you guys had a criteria as to who you chose as your friends and who you didn't.
Obviously, I had bad taste. No, I don't think, when some people will meet a girlfriend and they'll be like, this one's the one. And they'll be like, how do you know? And they'll be like, nope, I just know. I don't think you pick friends. I don't think you really analyze people. At an older age, now I have to be more careful who I meet. I certainly do find myself analyzing people. What do they want from me is a big question that I have to ask myself now.
Absolutely.
I'm as wealthy as I am. But back in the day, I don't think that you analyze people on a conscious level. I think it's all subconscious. Mm-hmm. So I can't actually tell you what the criteria was or what I was thinking at the time or why I hung out with the people who I hung out with. But the only thing that I know I've always looked for in friends and people is loyalty. I know that I just know that because me and Andrew have always had that. So we couldn't have anyone in our group who would betray that kind of trust and concept.
Which I will say, everyone that I know from your group of friends, who are my group of friends too, every single one of them, their loyalty is unmatched.
Of course.
And I will say that, like, no one's ever broke the code.
No, and that's how I've picked them. And I didn't do it on purpose, I guess. But I still have those same old group of friends that stand by me. I think I always will. Unfortunately.
Yeah, well, sorry.
But here you are.
You're stuck now. Yeah. Sorry, bro. What was your proudest moment growing up? What was your proudest moment?
That's an easy story. My proudest moment growing up, I was 24 or 23. The television advertising business had died. I mean, Andrew had moved on to other things. But there was this one client that we were trying to work with. We were trying to get this company on television. Very, very big budgets. Me and Andrew were set to make, the profit wasn't big. It was like, £500,000, but it all had to be spent on airtime and all this kind of stuff. Right. But me and Andrew were set to make about 60-something thousand pounds.
Which back then,
I had never seen more than 15 in my life. So we were set to make £60,000 together. And we finally made the commercials and put them on television, and we got the deal and we got the money in the bank. And we bought an old Aston Martin. It was an Aston Martin Vantage. Do you remember the first one I ever bought?
I do. I remember it very well.
We bought this old second-hand Aston Martin Vantage that wasn't in the best shape, but it cost us £60,000 exactly.
That's everything you had?
We scraped together enough money to pay the insurance for it, and I was driving home from the showroom in Cambridge with Andrew in that car, and that will always be my proudest memory. You see how I buy cars now. The other day, I was on the phone right where you're sitting there, and I bought 3 Aston Martins over a video call. Yep, cool, I'll take it. Yep, this color. Now it's lost its magical feeling in a way. I enjoy cars and I always will, but that first one, when we were driving that car, the first time I've realized that people are like staring at me, everyone looks when the car goes by, it's because it's an Aston Martin. I think now supercars are a bit more common if you live in Bucharest, etc., or a city that has a lot of money. But sometimes I forget the feeling. Like even a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I was driving.
See, it's nuts that you bought a car with 60 grand and that's all you had. See, a lot of men would be too scared to do that. They'd use that 60 grand as a safety net.
And that's very poor financial advice, because buying a car with all £60,000 of your money is a poor financial decision. And people still have a go at me about this today. So young people and internet entrepreneurs will buy like their first Lamborghini and their first Ferrari. And people will quite rightfully check them and be like, oh, well, you shouldn't have bought that Ferrari. You should have invested it in this. You should have invested it in that. And in one way, they're right. But in another way, I was a 24-year-old who owned an Aston Martin outright. No finance agreement, no rental agreements. I was 24 and I owned an Aston Martin. So if you think you get a big chunk of money, it's the only money you're ever going to have in your life, yeah, invest it, do whatever. But if you believe in yourself, if you believe in your abilities, if you believe in your capability as a man to go out and keep conquering, then by all means buy the Aston Martin. Because now I can't.
What's funny is a lot of people in Luton at the time when you bought that, they would argue to the heavens with me that it was on finance.
Yeah,
and I used to have to sit there and tell them, no, they bought it. They bought it. And people just refuse to believe it.
But people will only stop saying that when you get to insane levels of money. At least twice a day on Twitter, people say, haha, they have a bunch of rented cars. I rent 40 supercars every day. I'd have to be
that doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense. Tate is stitched in the back of my Bugatti seats, but people will always talk shit and people will always hate on you for doing well in life. But if you're a young man and you've closed your first big deal and you have your first bit of money and there's a car you want, maybe it's a BMW, maybe it's a Mercedes, I would say, with all the financial advisors and business nerds on Twitter who will tell me not to say this, I would say go out and buy that car. And then that car will increase your image, and then continue working, continue grinding, and then buy more cars.
And it motivated you to do more.
Now I can buy anything I like. And now when I buy something stupid like a Koenigsegg for 4.4 million, like the one that's on its way, and people say...
I've seen some of your car purchases. They're insane.
I know.
And I mean, they're endless and they're unlimited.
And when that arrives, there's going to be some nerds like, 4.4 million, he could have done this and invested in real estate and bought stocks and bought crypto. Now, you think I don't do that? Here's the thing. Now people think that I just buy cars and I have no portfolios, no backup, no savings, no property, nothing. They have no idea what I invest where. But the fact that I can buy a $4 million car outright means I have at least $4 million cash. But I would say that if you see someone like me buying a $5 million car, they've got at least 25 or 30 cash. And they're doing smarter things with the rest of it.
I watched you go on Shipwreck the Island.
Shipwreck!
Shipwreck the Island, Channel 4. I watched you go on there. You were actually living at my house at the time.
I was.
Me and Andrew stayed at my house because my dad had an operation. My mum had moved out due to my own family divorce. And you and Andrew were living at my house. I remember me and Andrew waited for you. For 3 months you were gone.
I was gone on the island,
Right, and when you came back, you were skinny as a rake because there was no food there or you had to sustain yourself. Now, after that, you started traveling quite a lot. And I mean, in the sense of we went to Košice, Slovakia, a few times. Me, you and Andrew, you know, and Košice was beautiful. Which brings me on to say, where did Romania come into the equation? Because I'm missing that link myself.
I've always liked Eastern Europe. So the reason I used to go to Košice is because when I was 15, 16, I used to live with that Slovak guy, Peter, who I still speak with to this day. He's a good friend of mine. He invited me to his hometown once, and I was like, it's clean, it's safe, it's beautiful, everyone's nice, everyone's safe. And you hear the word, especially we're now talking, 20 years ago, 19 years ago, when you hear the word Slovakia, everyone's like, Slovakia must be a hellhole. I think people are now a lot more wise than they were. But Romania probably has one of the worst brand names in Europe. And it must have been 9 years ago now. There was a big fight show out here, and my friend didn't have cornermen. My friend Thomas didn't have a cornerman, and he said, "Hey, the show won't pay to fly my cornerman out. Do you and Andrew want to come be my cornerman?" We said, "Yeah, let's go check Romania out." And Romania was and still is an absolutely wonderful country. And I know people want me to talk shit about Romania. And
Bro, I've been very pleasantly surprised by Romania.
know.
I've been here a few times. You know, I lived here for a while before. You know, you've showed me everywhere, and the scenery is stunning. I'm not going to go into that.
And England was getting worse and worse. So I just thought, you know what? I've got some good friends in Romania. Property's cheap out there in Romania. So I bought a flat that cost me 40,000 euros for a nice flat in the mountains in a village near Brasov. And what's funny is people dig this stuff up now. Oh, Tristan thinks he's a baller, but we've been reading his property records, and he used to live in a 40,000 pound flat. Yeah, well, I was like 20. I was like 27. Like, how is that a dig? How is that an insult? Leave me alone. But yeah, obviously now I've got properties in Dubai worth 20 million plus, so everyone can shut their mouths. But yeah, I just fell in love with Romania. I really enjoyed it here. I thought it was a wonderful country. I still think it is. Hopefully, I'll be able to stay. It depends on how the situation ends. But better than England. England's going downhill.
Where did the idea of Hustlers University and the War Room come about? Because I remember Andrew talking about, you know, when he started to build it. Where did the idea come from?
Well, it's very interesting because me and Andrew have been under attack for a while. We now look back and they've tried to nip us in the bud. We didn't even realize at the time. 6 years ago was the first time Andrew got banned on Twitter because he had an argument with J.K. Rowling about mental health.
I remember, yeah.
And now J.K. Rowling is anti-transgender and stuff. She's coming around to the right side. So I guess maybe one day
you've influenced her, right?
One day I'll buy her a drink. Who knows? But they had some kind of argument, and Andrew got banned for talking about mental health on Twitter.
Did you ever believe that the War Room and Hustlers University would grow to the size it is today?
No, and it's not about the size. It's about the power that they have. So when Andrew first got cancelled on Twitter, he thought, you know what? I'm going to start my own little network. I'm going to charge, what was it, £300 a year for access to it. I'm going to call it Andrew Tate's War Room. And this way I can speak with the people who resonate with my message and, you know, build this little network group without Twitter, because I'm banned on Twitter anyway.
Yeah.
So it was actually the people who tried to cancel us who have always made us stronger. So those were the beginnings of the War Room. And it wasn't that the War Room was such a great product because me and Andrew were in it that made it what it is. It was the quality of the people who signed up to the War Room that made it what it is. I want to make this very clear. The War Room was built by the people within it. There was a point about 2 years into it where we kicked half the people out because we realized, no, kick them out. We don't need their money anymore. We don't need the membership fee.
It was more about having the high quality
people. So you know what? Let's triple the price.
Yeah.
Screw it.
Yeah.
High value, good people only. And that's when the War Room became what it is.
That's a great dynamic.
Yeah, so the War Room is a very successful business network, and I think it always will be. The War Room isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
And the War Room had my back when I was in jail. They know exactly the kind of attack that's happening on me. Everyone in the War Room is a wonderful person, and I've made some very good friends from the War Room.
Yeah, I've met a few of them.
You've
you know what?
You've met Iggy, you've met Jewel, you've met Justin.
They're
you've met
good guys.
And these are people I've met through the War Room, which is insane. So I can now, although I have my old group of friends, because I vetted them when I was young, through loyalty, we all had the same message. You know, I used to lie and say you never have more than 5 friends your whole life. And that was a lie. Because what you have to understand is you're walking through the world hoping to meet these friends by random. By random chance, you're going to run into a guy with the same values as you, the same mission as you, the same mindset as you, the same goals as you, who's aligned in every way. You're not going to meet those people walking through the world. But I now have at least 30 real friends, 35 real friends, who I call my real friends.
Yeah.
People you haven't met.
Yeah.
Tig, Julian. There's so many guys from within the War Room who I've made really great friendships with because I'm not walking through the world trying to find them. We're all in the same room.
That's
now.
right, you're all in the
We're
same
all
room.
in the same room.
Which I think is a very clever dynamic of how you brought that together.
So the War Room is absolutely amazing.
With that said, I mean, you've got Hustlers University now, and I've seen thousands of young men absolutely smashing it through the real world.
Absolutely.
Right? And so the real world teaches people how to make money online, you know, how to make a legit business online and make money. They learn different skills. I think there's tens of skills in there you can learn now.
Sales, affiliate marketing, dropshipping, absolutely.
So that obviously, that's blown your fame up massively. Yeah, you and Andrew.
Yeah, I think that when anyone, it's all about showing results and showing receipts. You know, when we and Andrew were young, we didn't know anyone with money, really. Like,
no,
if I could get a chance to speak to someone with money, I'd take the opportunity and try and grill their brain for 20 minutes. Now, for $49 a month, young men could sign up and have 18 different campuses, all taught by legitimate millionaires who've all made money way before they were in the real world, who are actively teaching them everything that they need to make money in the exact same way. It's such a powerful resource because no matter what job you work, you can afford $49.
Yes, that's right.
So no, it's absolutely.
I've seen young men smashing it, making thousands a month.
There was a kid the other day who made $18,000 in a single day.
In a one day.
In a single day.
I know who he is.
Let's not say his name, but
No,
in a single day, and he's 16 years old. So to finish off, I just think it's absolutely incredible, and this is why I think me and Andrew are under attack as well, because we tell people the typical go to university.
I'm going to get onto that. I'm going to get onto that.
There we go.
What I will say is, so you got famous. Did that ever change the way that you lived? Because I can say hands down, I don't think you guys have changed at all.
Yeah.
You know, you've always been the same people. People think that you change when you get money and you get this fame. You've never changed the way you live, is that right? Or have you had to be a bit more careful about certain things?
Oh, I mean, in terms of the way I live, I guess that has changed. Certainly the luxury of it all. But how careful you have to be with your security, with who takes your photos, with who leaks information. You have to be careful with lots of stuff. But what I will say is this. Money only changes you if you're not a genuine person. Mm-hmm. Money reveals who you really are. That's it. If you're a real dickhead, but you walk around kissing everyone's ass, being nice to them all the time in the hopes of getting something, the moment you have $100 million, you're going to become a dickhead to everybody because that's who you are inside. If you're a genuinely good person and you run into a truckload of money somewhere, you're just going to continue to be a good person.
And I've seen you guys help a lot of people.
Well, I've increased the amount of charity I do, certainly. Yeah. But I was always the guy who was willing to help out.
People love to turn a blind eye to that as well.
A lot of my haters didn't know me until this attack started. So now they're following me and watching what I'm doing and being like, oh, look, they're doing so much charity ever since they got attacked in this way. And I'm like, no, but the people who know me, who have been my fans for 5 years, 6 years, have seen me doing this forever, as long as they know me. I'm always willing to help people out. So if you're a good person, money just makes you doesn't make you a better person. Mm-hmm. It makes you more capable on acting on your goodwill that you have towards other people.
Of course.
That's it.
I'm going to change the subject now to something a bit more serious.
Okay.
You went to jail. Yeah?
Well, that's not serious. Jail was fine.
Okay. Jail's fine to you because you have an iron mind.
Thank you.
Now, I believe that the reason you went to jail is because you upset a certain narrative of your promotion of masculinity and the things that you say. You know,
I've heard people say that. Yeah.
I believe that the allegations are fabricated to stop you from promoting, you know, masculinity, and that, you know, they label you as toxic and misogynists and everything else that the mainstream like to call you. Now, did jail? I know that jail didn't change you as a person, but while you were in jail, did it reveal to you who your true friends were? Did it reveal to you, you know, who cared and who didn't about you and Andrew? Did it change your views on people?
Yeah, but something like that naturally would. You know, you have the people who and I'm glad I have friends like you actually, because I couldn't have kept track of this. I had no internet access. I didn't even have any phone calls. I didn't make a phone call for the entire time I was in jail. So I had meetings with my lawyer and that was it. But yeah, you certainly see who speaks up or who immediately knows that it's bullshit. Within the first week or two, there were people like you, people like Tucker Carlson even, saying, there is something wrong with this. These guys have hundreds of millions of dollars. They're obviously attractive enough. They've kidnapped people. For what? Like, why have they done this? There are people who immediately spoke out against this, and I'll always appreciate those people. And then there are people now, 7 months in, when the whole thing is looking really ropey, are saying, oh, well, there's something wrong with this case.
I'm going to stop you there because you need to hear this.
Go on.
I was at a family meal when I found out that you and Andrew had been brought to jail. It was, I think it was New Year's Eve, was it?
It was the 29th.
29th, just before New Year's Eve. And I remember being told, Andrew and Tristan on the news, they've been locked up. And I said, no. I said, so I opened my phone and I seen it. And I went straight home. I left. I had to go. I thought, nah, this can't be true. I got home and thought, fucking hell. So I'm banging my head on the wall. What the fuck can I do? Nothing. There's nothing I can do.
There was nothing anyone could do, sadly.
I signed up to Twitter because the amount of attacks that were coming from people was insane. And I thought, I have to do something. So I signed up to Twitter and I posted one picture of you and Andrew coming out of the police van. And I said, I've known these guys 17 years. They've never trafficked nobody. You know, that was the only thing I could do. And then James English messaged me, asking me to come on a podcast.
He's a good guy.
Which is how I met James English, right? We're still friends today. James is a great guy. So, you know, it was very hard for the people around you because everyone felt helpless, right?
Yeah. And everyone was helpless, even my lawyers. It's a case, and I can't go into it too much, but it's not the typical way cases are done anywhere in the world, even here. Like, this was very unusual, and it's all going to come out eventually of exactly what happened and why and how it was done and the mistakes that were made. And, you know, everyone's going to have to, I guess, without trying to sound threatening, pay for their mistakes.
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
you know, justice has to be done, and God is going to make sure justice gets done. I'm going to make sure justice gets done. And even if they drop the case tomorrow, that's not justice. What, 15 months of my life, 3 months in jail, this many months on house arrest, the amount of money I've lost, my reputational damage. If they drop the case tomorrow, is that justice?
I have argued with endless idiots from
Yeah.
our hometown about these guys' innocence, and you know, it's insulting. It's insulting.
Well,
because-
I've got a good example. When I was growing up, I had many friends who did illegal things, saying no names. You know, there's some people I used to hang around with who did illegal things. I mean, I wouldn't drop anyone in it.
No, I
ever.
don't- yeah, don't
I
say
mean,
their
if
names.
it was here sitting right in front of me right now, I wouldn't mention it.
No, that's good.
But I'm a good guy.
Yeah.
But all of my friends who like to do illegal things and crimes, tilt it back. There we go.
Tristan, I thought you were rich.
I am rich.
So why doesn't your lighter work? Oh,
Ah, see? Doesn't work for poor hands. So anyway, all my friends who were ex-criminals. What's crazy is this. I was broke, hungry, couldn't pay the electricity, couldn't buy good food, couldn't put petrol in my car. They'd always propose to me some illegal scheme. Oh, if we just do this, or go here, or take this, or sell this, maybe we'd make some money. And throughout my entire life when I was broke, I said no. I never engaged in any illegal activity. I'll say it right now on the internet. I will confess, because I got caught. The only illegal thing I ever did was sell copied music CDs at my high school when I was 14. That's the only illegal business I've ever run.
you criminal.
I know. Look, sue me, Universal Records. So, but throughout my entire life, anyone who proposed doing anything illegal, no matter how broke I was, I said no. So it doesn't matter what anyone thinks of me. To believe that I'm a human trafficker, you have to believe this. I'm now, at the time, I'm 33 years old.
Yeah.
I'm already worth $100+ million. I already have kids. I obviously have I can get a beautiful woman in any city in the world that I want. I'm not lonely. I'm in good shape. I'm a retired sportsman. I'm pretty famous. I'm
You're very
recognizable.
famous.
Well, 2 and a bit years ago, not so much, but I was quite famous. Everyone in the world would recognize mine and Andrew's face. And me and Andrew sat around and said, I know, I have a great idea. Let's start human trafficking. That's what you have to believe this
Yeah.
case is true.
Yeah.
And people are reading, I know what the evidence they're trying to use is. They're reading kinky text messages between girls I know saying,
Taking text out of context.
Oh, you're mine. Aha, when you come to the South, I'm never going to let you go. Like, just shit,
They're using that as
no,
evidence?
well, they're trying. Girls who say, this is not evidence, I'm not a victim, by the way. But like, they're finding the most stupid shit to use as evidence.
And how does that make you feel in the sense of courts and trials? You now...
No, I believe in courts and I believe in trials.
You believe they're fair?
Yeah, well, I believe in the Romanian justice system in terms of the court system. Because there are 2 judges who were told to keep me in jail who said, nope, let these boys go. Last week, there was a Court of Appeal judge who said, nope, I've seen all the evidence, let these boys go.
Yep.
They lost the argument with other judges, but there are judges in the system who are completely fair and they know what's going on. The investigation process, I can't be so kind about, because I believe the people who ran the investigation knew immediately that I wasn't criminal. They were just determined to prove it because it would help their career and somehow. But, you know, God is going to decide what happens to me, and regardless of what they do, the evidence is going to have to be shown to the world.
Well, I will say I know
Yeah.
this man for a long time, and I can say with hand on my heart, this man is not a criminal.
I say
Now-
the only thing I've ever forced a woman to do in this house is to leave. That's hand on my heart. That's the truth. The only thing I've ever forced anyone to do in this house is to leave. But yeah, so it's all going to come out in the end. Right now, we can't talk about it too much, but we'll do another interview when I'm allowed to dissect the case.
If you could go back and change anything, would you?
No.
Why?
You know, because people are trying to tell me stupid things. Again, like, really, I'm a Christian now. A bunch of really conservative Christians are like, well, 10 years ago, the business you were involved in was immoral. Like I said, I was a kid from the streets. I had no money. I found a legal business to run. Immoral, maybe. Illegal, no. I found a legal business to run that I thought was a great moneymaker at the time. I ran it professionally. I did make some money. Fine. I was an atheist back then. I didn't have much guidance back then. And all the mistakes I've made in my life, because I don't even consider that a mistake, but all the mistakes I've made in my life have led me to where I am today. So I don't want to change anything about my current situation. So if I could go back in time and change anything in my past, I wouldn't.
Okay.
I'm very happy where I am.
So if you could give advice to 16-year-old Tristan today, other than stay away from Rory, what would it be?
I wouldn't want to tell him anything that would impact his future.
Yeah.
I would like him to do everything. I'd like him to have the kickboxing fights he had, get his nose broken, lose the fights he lost because he didn't train enough, run his stupid webcam studio, sell it, fail in the TV advertising business, not be able to pay his electricity. I would like him to go through everything. I would just say, call your parents more often. Call your dad more. That's the only thing I would go back in time and tell him.
Excellent. I'm going to round it up. I'm going to say, look, I know who you are as a person. I know your family. I know your true characters. I've known you for a very long time. And whatever happens, I'm going to be there.
I know.
I'm going to be there. And I'm going to fight to the end for you guys.
Come visit me in jail if they send me.
Listen, it'll be the best VO you've ever had. But yeah, I'm going to round that up. And I just want to say thank you for letting me ask you these questions today. You didn't have to.
Anytime.
And I feel very honoured to have you here on my podcast, as I am a very small platform. Which reminds me to say, if you have liked what you've seen, please like and subscribe. And thank you guys for watching. And we will see you on the next episode. Hopefully I have another very interesting guest lined up. But no, I'm going to round that up now. Thank you guys very much. And Tristan, I'll see you in the kitchen for a drink.
Good night and God bless.
Good night. Take care, guys.